Alrighty, as I make my way over in this, I know it's not that bad, but it looks like it's heading low. This is the Company War, Mayfair Games. Just looked at it. This is a game that's always surprised me. When I first got it or whatever, it wasn't the kind of thing I'd expect I liked. And I think the first time I played it solo or whatever, also, I wasn't that thrilled with it. It wasn't until I ended up playing it two-player opposed that I said, wow, this is actually really cool. And it's hard to tell Solitaire just how cool it is. Because, well, the thing is, it seems kind of simple, and it is. Too simple for my tastes, usually. But the combat system, it's got this roll and roll again combat system, which, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep an eye out for my mailman. Not that he'll actually drive here. The combat system is the kind that annoys me. These kind of roll dice to see if you hit, roll dice to see if the hit's deflected. I understand as a narrative tool, they're very good. The shots fired and the shields deflected them, and it's great. Well, I don't know how much more you need than the shots fired and overcame the defenses and hit. And here's what sucks. You roll 2 dice for the attack, which means each ship that's rolling, unless you do what I do with different colored dice, ends up having to be a separate roll. And then each defensive roll for that is only 1 die, but you got tons of those to roll. It just becomes this mechanically kind of an annoying thing. But there's small enough number of ships in battles usually, and especially with the tactical system that fire at any one time, that it doesn't tend to be too terrible. It's certainly not one of those systems that I'd want to see repeated in something complicated. And I've seen it. Le Grand Guerre uses something like this in its naval combat, actually. A little bit worse. Go! Go! Jesus. Hold on. So, FedEx delivery. Because my wife couldn't actually open the door and cope with it. Alright. So where the fuck were we? Anyway. This was, yeah, I have no idea where I am now. This is, it's a game, man. It's like this. No, it's very. There are these decisions you have to make in terms of the die roll for movement, which limits the number of ships that you can make. Which means you can't just go swamping your enemy or hitting them. It would be a very simple game if it weren't for the die roll and movement. It would be a who got to go first in every case. There's the possibility, especially for the Union player with some of their smaller ships, we didn't see this in the game, to kind of create choke points in certain key locations. I'm looking for the map to find them. But there are certain places on the map where 1 or 2 ships can prevent the enemy from just flying through on points that are unimportant. So then those big carrier fleets are useless. And once you pin them down someplace, you might have some advantage that you can... there's just so much crap going on here. That you can take... you might be able to strike somewhere else. You might be able to hit this abortive force that was planning to combine with another force. You might be able to get the edge that way, but it's a short game. There aren't a lot of turns. That's actually one of the things that I kind of don't like about it. I feel like I'm just getting into, this is what I need to do to kind of control the map at this point. and the game's over just because of time limit. So it's something that I feel like needs a couple of plays to get a feel for. Components, little glossy counters, they work fine. There's a lot of misprints on the counters. The rule book tells you, oh, we screwed up on all this stuff, here, rewrite it. Well, with a Sharpie you can do it. It's not like you're facing anything beautiful. They're just serviceable. They look like SPI or Avalon Hill 70s style, late 70s, early 80s style iconography. Puzzle board, I hate puzzle boards. They aren't the worst thing in the world. This one doesn't work too badly. There aren't a lot of places. A hex map is about the worst thing on a puzzle board. So it works okay. You don't have to draw lines, so it's not like trying to do crayon rails on a puzzle board, which is kind of annoying. Something Mayfair did a lot of. This little sheet of paper for the tactile map. Oh, and then, this is so important. There's like some sort of, I guess this is just flavor text stuff. There's a lot of flavor stuff in this game for no real reason. Not in the game rules, just there's this whole book of background information and everything. And it's interesting stuff, That's great. If you're into the world, and especially when this came out, I think Down Below Station was the only book in the series. Certainly the only one I read. It's helpful to get some feel for what's going on, and if you're following the book, if you're interested in the book, then having this extra source material, which probably got used elsewhere in the series eventually, not verbatim, but the ideas, ends up being kind of a plus, I guess. But for me, I'm more interested in the game. I want maybe some designer's notes on how things that are in the books are reflected in the game. These aren't well drawn out. Instead, it's just, fan material, basically. And that's kind of a sad situation. But what's nice, what would have been nice, is if they actually took some of the tactical complexities from this universe that are described both in the book and I think to some extent here, where jumping into a system is really this very, very specific kind of situation where combat requires more than just moving around and turning hexes. It would have been cool if they got somebody who had the designer chops to put out a real good advanced combat system. As it is, the advanced combat system is broken in the sense that it's missing rolls, or doesn't reflect what the basic game system does at all. So basically, you can't withdraw the advanced system as written. That means one side will die. That neither fits the storyline nor the basic system, and it is a definite flaw. There's a question as to the balance of adding the merchants. Certainly everybody except the two merchants has very asymmetrical goals as well as means of achieving them. And especially when you look at two military powers, two merchant powers, just this very, very different feel. But when you start looking at it, there's a lot of mechanisms in place, or a lot of capability just built into the core game, because there isn't a lot of anything in this game to manage catch-up type situation. So somebody's ahead, hey, we can all gang up on him, we can all do battle. The merchants are way behind, let them free trade. It'll get us some good capital there. Maybe they'll help us out somewhere. In general, though, I think it shines best as a two-player game. I'm not sure if I've ever played it multiplayer opposed. I'd like to, but as a two-player game, what's really, really great is just these decisions of where to commit this limited amount of activity that you have. And it's all very clean and easy. It's not like the CDGs where you have to, know these cards and look at them and try to figure out, whether you want to use the event or the this or the that. You've just got some points and a certain ability to move, and that ability is fairly flexible and fluid because you have unlimited movement as long as you're not blocked. It really presents you with a kind of strategic situation that you don't normally see in a game in terms of where to move, where to concentrate your forces, how to do it. In a lot of ways it feels a little bit like Victory in the Pacific, but the decisions feel easier and they don't feel like counting. Largely because you've got this die roll, a certain amount of things you can do, and that's it. A certain amount of ships you can move. And it really just comes down to, what am I doing this turn? Which thing am I doing? Am I going to gather my fleet and attack everything? Or am I going to send what I can to do this one little goal, maybe block a spot or whatever? We didn't see any of the blocking spots on my playthrough. Again, because the idea of that hadn't even really dawned on me until late in the game. And it almost always is that way because I seldom replay games. Up it goes. I hope the hell I don't have to deal with the regular mail.